Welcome to a Better Black America TV. Welcome to a Better Black America Talk radio show. Listen, we figured it out. We have figured it out. What the play is when it comes to the Democratic Party. What it looks like is that there's a regime change and nation building operation going on, and the only individuals that do not know are Democratic elected officials. And I'm going to let you know why by the end of this podcast. So listen, 30 days until the government shutdown, and people are losing their minds. I'm seeing videos of individuals talking about looting and stealing food and all of that. But I got some receipts today to let y'all know that the federal government loves you more than your elected officials. And I'm going to say that again. The federal government loves you more than your elected officials. The president is on his way back from Japan. The president is doing his job. He's doing his job. He's cutting deals with everybody around the world. You know, America is a republic. It's not a monarchy. So there's no way he could be king. But the Chinese government or the Japanese government, I don't know which one. You're going to have to check the receipts on that. But they gave this man a crown. Let that sink in. No pun intended. And I guarantee you that the individuals that are scared, that are fearful, are individuals that are playing right into the hands of the chaos. Because when you want to change a system, you need a chaotic situation. You need fear. You need energy. You need people to be all in their feelings. And it takes me back to the most recent situation, and that was the shutdown when it comes to the COVID little situation. And then what happened to George Floyd? Had individuals around the country protesting and doing all of these things. And then when the smoke cleared, what happened? Nothing. So we are looking at a situation which is controlled chaos in terms of, what they think that they're doing. But the jig is up, and I have some very, very reliable sources. And those reliable sources have let me know that, if you're on food stamps, if you're on SNAP, if you're on WIC, you have nothing to worry about because the federal government is going to take care of you. Now, the Democrats assume or think that they can control the narrative. Okay. But, all good things come to an end and all bad things come to an end. But the Democrats think that they can control the narrative, and they have the government shut down because they cannot find 7 moderates or 7 centrist Democrats to vote to open the government, to vote on a clear CR, which is a clean resolution, meaning just push the goalpost back for another month so we can have negotiations. So they're doing all of these press conferences, and I'm sure Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, this is the Schumer shutdown, is actually having press conferences right now. Lying to the American people and saying this is the Trump shutdown and Trump is doing this and Trump is doing an amazing job. If you look at the polls, he's doing an amazing job. Okay. And like I said, I'm here to call balls and strikes. I'm a nonpartisan independent, meaning I don't have a dog in the fight, but there has to be an independent legislative body to hold both sides accountable. And this is the reason why I exist as a special assistant to the president of the United States. So now, as we share and communicate, I'm going to share some information with you so you can actually, sleep a little better at night, especially if you are a public assistance or government assistant recipient, because I got some information because my reliable sources have sent me, gave me intelligence, gave me information. I can't say their names because they're going to stop funneling this information, because they have to leak and funnel this information to the people, because a lot of our individuals sit back and watch the nightly news and not knowing that the nightly news is in on the scam. You're broadcasting. They have a script that they read. They really are clueless. They just are, pawns in the bigger scheme of things. But this situation right now, you're looking at a pawn that cannot be knocked off the chessboard, because sometimes pawns can play a major part on a bigger scale. So with the 30-day government shutdown, the 30-day Schumer shutdown, the 30-day Democratic shutdown, These individuals got to stop lying to the American people, because they got you thinking that Trump is taking your food stamps, Trump is taking your SNAP, and they're playing on your intelligence, meaning that they understand that you're not educated. They understand that you have no clue about what's really going on. And they understand that you are a part of an operation that just believe what you're told. And it reminds me of slavery, and it reminds me of the plantation. And it's clear that the Democratic Party has a stronghold on the black community or the African American community, because they do not have a stronghold on black Americans. Black Americans are independent. You know, we may be a minority here in the United States of America, but we are a global majority. So now that, you know, Generation X is starting to figure out that we are the greatest generation to ever exist, because the baby boomer generation, they was the greatest generation to benefit. And I'm talking about, you know, the African American community, or the so-called black man here in America. The baby boomers, you know, they you know, did well for themselves. But when it was time to pass the torch, there was no torch to pass. So now they passed us crack. They passed us poverty. They passed us gang banging. They passed us murdering and pillaging. They passed us a bunch of bleep bleep. And now they realize that, but they can't pivot. They can't make an adjustment. They can't call an audible. They have to just be, you know, just go ahead and die in the wilderness, because what? They sold their soul. So I'm challenging everybody today. You know, repent, because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Declare your independence outside of these two rivaling tribes, because I personally would like to see why this white man have an issue with that white man. And it is what it is. So 30 days into the shutdown, and the 30 days into the shutdown. And when I say the shutdown, there is, you know, some serious issues going on. I personally was flabbergasted when I saw that the Democratic minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, yes, the Democratic minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, endorsed a communist as mayor of New York City. And I sat back and I just sat quiet, because I wanted to understand, why would, you know, this Democrat, Hakeem Jeffries, the Speaker of the House, the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, endorse a known, outwardly spoken communist Marxist to be a mayor of a city in these United States of America? And I said, boom, there it is. Regime change. So the Democratic Party is going through a processing system. They're going from, you know, their democracy, because their democracy is expiring. It's a lost cause, and it always has been. But they cannot continue with it, because they lost the stronghold of black Americans. So now that they're moving to regime change from not only our grandparents and parents' Democratic Party to the current Democratic Party as it is, they're moving it even further to the left, and they're basically are communists. So if you think I'm capping, and cap is another phrase for lying, if you think that what I just said is cap, go ahead and look up the American Communist Party. Look up their ideology. Look up what they believe in. They're right here in our faces. So they got a Marxist communist person running for mayor of New York City. And I don't even, and like I said, I'm not even, I haven't took a deep dive, but he's not even, a born American. He's a foreign national. So these foreign nationals who want to collapse the United States of America, this is the regime change, because the Democratic Party can't do it because they tried to make woke something, but they just pushed everything off the cliff, because right now the Democratic Party is a joke. And I'm asking you a question. Who's the leader of the party? Who's the front runner for the presidency in 2028? Who's the, is it AOC or the old guy, Bernie Sanders? I mean, come on, guys. Seriously, here in the United States, They're playing games with us. They're playing games, not with me, but with you. So my job is, and if you are listening to me right now on any of the outlets, I'm at work. Okay. Because when I first started doing this, I was just getting decimals. And now when I look in that back office, I'm getting commas. So this is a partnership. This is freedom. This is independence. So a lot of you individuals that's getting laid off because of AI, I've seen that UPS is laying off and Amazon is laying off. And a lot of these jobs are jobs that, artificial intelligence can do. I'm telling you, and I'm motivating you and inspiring you, do what God gave you. Do what the gifts God put in you. This is a blessing, not a curse. Because sometimes you got to just shake everything up to just, figure out a way to pivot, to call an audible, to change the direction or to change the trajectory of your life. So now this is an opportunity to be free. It feels good to be free. It feels good to wake up and not have to be submissive and be somebody's subordinate. Or if you're late, you gotta, that ain't nothing but slavery. And it's crazy how they set the system up, because when I was coming up, they taught us to be educated, to use our cerebral cortex. But somehow all of a sudden now they raising this next generation. And I can say in the urban communities and people of color is to be the next generation of prisoners. That's what they're doing. So 30 days into the shutdown, Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed a communist to be the mayor of New York City, and Barack Obama is endorsing a white governor in the state of Virginia over the sister. How hypocritical can these guys be? And when you look at Barack Obama, he's one of those. And when I say one of those, meaning he's their top Negro that they put out there, because he's pushing Proposition 50 lying through his teeth. So I'm going to ask you right now, hit that like, hit that notification, because I'm going to take a deep dive next week. We're closing out this week. So next week, we're going to talk about Proposition 50. I'm going to do some reaction videos. I'm going to look at, and tell you what Barack Obama is really saying, because they are using and manipulating him. But when I saw the picture of his broken fingers and his black eye, I understand. And just remember, before the Pope got up out of here, he got dotted in his eye as well. So when you work with these people, when they make you, if they make you, they could break you. And if you don't play by their rules, they'll do some strange things. Because the mayor of LA, they broke into her home and stole some guns, and come to find out that her husband, got 50 years for murder. This thing is crazy, but I'm gonna leave it right there. So 30 days into the shutdown, the Democratic Party is going through a regime change and nation build. And according to my sources, this is coming from the top, it's regime change and nation build, because the party has went so far left that they're going to make a right turn. Okay. And they're going to do it with the communist movement. And if you understand, John F. Kennedy, though communism was back in those days. So now communism bought in and financed and controlled and manipulated the Democratic Party. Now it's that Democratic pimple has popped, and now we're dealing with communism versus the republic. To the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it was Benjamin Franklin who said, after 1776, that America is a republic if we can keep it. And since 1776, there's been an opposition trying to take down this republic. To the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. And we're calling it out. And any time the black man, any team that we rock with wins. Because if you did not know, the Civil War was about, started because the Democratic Dixiecratic South wanted to expand slavery. And you can look up the Kansas-Nebraska Act. They wanted to expand slavery, but the Union said no. Okay. This is not fair. This is not right. So they went to war. And then did you know that the Union, wasn't doing too well? Didn't know how, they would get through the winter or continue to fight this fight. And so many lives have been lost, because if you can remember, they would just line up and just pull and just shoot each other in the face. But on Bunker Hill, a situation happened. They ran out of ammunition, and Bunker Hill was about to be, it was about to go haywire. Okay, but Ulysses Grant, saw something, and he saw that those slaves at the time, who were digging a trench around Bunker Hill, picked up those guns with no ammunition, and they conquered Bunker Hill. And when he reported to Abraham Lincoln said himself, wow, if I emancipate the Negro, that would be a great asset to the Union. And he did. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation and went and basically freed the Negroes. And those that were able to escape the South got a pass to Canada, or got a pass up north to the free states. But they opened up the enlistment. They opened up the enlistments and allowed the newly free slave to enlist in the Union and form black regiments in the United States. And 6 months after that, the war was over. And then fast forward to the civil rights movement after, they assassinated JFK. Same thing happened. Lyndon B. Johnson was the president. He said, I'm going to have those niggers voting Democratic for the next 200 years. And he brought in the nigger leaders. And I quote, the Urban League, the NAACP, the ACLU, the Southern Christian Leadership, Dr. King, and all those guys. And basically told them, I'm going to give you these civil rights acts, everything you want. Okay, we're going to desegregate the South. We're going to end the Jim Crow laws and all of that. And we thought we was on. And then in 65, they got the Voting Rights Act. But just to make it make sense, we thought we was on. But as Dr. King left and the groups left, the black men left, Lyndon Baines Johnson's, who's a Democrat. And a lot of you are ignorant to the fact of that. He basically, had them nigger leaders come in there. And then after they left, the Negro thought they was on. Yeah, we did that. We're going to get a chance to eat at a place that was just whites only. Yeah, Massa loves us now. Okay, all right. But when they walked out, what happened? They bumped into Margaret Sanger, and they call her the mother of black genocide, from the Eugenics Society. And she went in there and had her meeting, and then they came up with Planned Parenthood. I got all the funding. So we're going to put the Negroes on, but we're going to create entities and situations to where we'll kill their babies to make sure that they do not have a future. Okay. Then they brought in the LBGTQ elemental P. And last time that I checked, a white lesbian woman is white. A gay or a homosexual white man is white. So now you got Margaret Sanger. You got the white feminist lesbian. You got the gay white man. You see what I'm saying? They put them on. And then they put on the migrants. Think about that. So what did the black man get out of the deal? Nothing. So this is why I say there was no torch to pass. The only thing that we got was a few people was able to get into certain colleges. A few people was able to, get into the aerospace industry. A few people was able to learn a trade in school, in high school, and learn how to fend for themselves. But when my generation came on, they took trade out of the schools. They took away the CETA programs, meaning after school work programs. Told us to go to school to get an education. We did that. And now we're back to change the game. And I'm telling you right now, due to, based on my reliable sources, this is a regime change, meaning the Democratic Party will not exist past this new year. So Project 2025 was a success. So we have to identify what Project 2026 is going to be. And that's freedom and liberation for God's people. Not only the black man, but anybody that's, in a situation that's been oppressed, because the Bible says that I will punish the oppressors and my people shall come out with great wealth. And great wealth does not necessarily mean financial. It means health. And if you're healthy, you're an able-bodied individual to make it happen and, dig deep and get a relationship with your God and repent and do what you need to do. Because we cannot continue to make the same mistake, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. That's foolish. So the baby boomers are literally expiring and dying in the wilderness. because the greatest generation is Generation X. And we're going to continue to work with Generation Next. And then we're going to continue to work with the millennials. And we're going to change this world. We're going to end racism. We're going to make it happen. And that's going to come with the United States government cutting a check. Because right now, all the funds that they're coming up with and utilizing is funds to basically pay America's debt to the original individuals that they promised, long time ago. That promissory note. The Japanese, the Jewish people from Germany, they got reparations. They was able to build Hollywood. So our situation's delayed but not denied. But no longer, shall we continue to support, something that's dead, that should not even be existing, because the lost cause. The lost cause was developed after the Civil War, but the assassin's bullet changed everything when they assassinated Abraham Lincoln. And the federal troops left the South, and they was able to run this scheme and this scam, and we didn't even have a conversation until the Civil Rights Movement. So with that being said, regime change and nation build. So now, since I said that, I'm going to show some receipts when it comes to, first I'm gonna start with the WIC benefits, because individuals are thinking that they're going to lose their funding because the government is shut down, but that's not the case. That's not the case. So I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all some information of what's really going on. Okay. Because I got it here, got the information here, I got the link. And based on this link, are you guys ready? I'm gonna turn the music down. Okay, let's have this conversation. Okay. Matter of fact, let's just mute it. Now, for you individuals who are afraid and scared and thinking you're going to lose your, government assistance. Now, I'm starting with WIC, and then I'm going to get with SNAP next. So with WIC, California WIC is open during the government shutdown. I'm going to say this again. California WIC is open during the government shutdown. Okay. And this was dated the 29th, which was actually yesterday. Brand new post. Okay. Now, let me see here. All right. Now, WIC is committed. To serving California families. Now, the WIC offices are open during the federal government shutdown and continue to serve and enroll families. Now, a lot of people say that they're going to stop the enrollment and all of that. That's not true. According to WIC, WIC offices are open during the federal government shutdown and continue to serve and enroll families. Families should continue to use their WIC benefits and attend their scheduled appointments. Okay. Now, we understand the uncertainty that families and the service providers may feel as the United States Congress works to approve a federal budget for the fiscal year. Now, it didn't say Trump. It said Congress. It didn't say Trump. It said Congress. Understand that. Okay. Now, October 1st of 2025, the United States federal government entered a shutdown. Now, the federal government shutdown will end once the United States Congress. It didn't say Trump. So stop saying Trump shut down the government. No, it says right here, the federal government shutdown will end once the United States Congress passes a federal budget or a continuing resolution. And that's the CR. They could vote on the CR today, but your Democratic elected officials refuse to do so because they're crashing out, because coming from the top, this is a regime change in the nation build. This is a regime change because the regime change is getting rid of the Democratic Party or their democracy to embrace communism. And if that's not true, tell me, why did Hakeem Jeffries, the Speaker of the House, the minority Speaker of the House, endorse a communist candidate for mayor of the city of New York? Let that sink in. So I just want to let you know once again, California WIC is open during the government shutdown. Okay, WIC is committed to serving and keeping California families informed. WIC offices are open during the federal government shutdown and continue to serve and enroll families. Families should continue to use their WIC benefits and attend their scheduled appointments. And I'm going to say this again. We understand that the uncertainties, we understand that you're uncertain of what's going on, and family service providers may feel that the United States Congress works to approve the federal budget. So listen, Congress, And the reason that I said that, because it's Congress. Now, on October 1st of 2025, the United States federal government entered a shutdown. Okay, and it's called the Schumer shutdown. The federal government shutdown will end. Make this point. The federal government shutdown will end once the United States president, once the United States, Donald Trump, once the United States Congress passes a federal budget or continuing resolution. And that's the CR that they talk about. So your Democratic Party, trying to scare you in fear tactics because they need, crazy situations to basically get you to do something, because they plan off your emotions. So when they sit back and say the president is starving, no. The Democratic Congress is starving, according to WIC, because they refuse to vote on the continuing resolution, which is the CR. And I say clean CR, which is a clean resolution, continuing resolution, meaning whatever's on the book. Let's just go and push that down the road, open the government so we can actually have these conversations. It is what it is. And that's a fact. So if you get WIC, you have no problem. So share this video, share this information, get this information to the American people, because it's not fair that the Democratic Party is using, the American people as bargaining tools and leverage to basically, end their party, because I don't even think that they know. So if you are an elected official, I'm talking to you. The information is out. They're regime changing and nation building the Democratic Party. So if you're not a communist, if you're not a Marxist, if you're not a socialist, then, that's out. And I'm going to go and tell you this, because the Democratic Party was never predicated on that. We were it was a Democratic Republican Party, but the Democrats, Republican, not switched, because the parties never switched. They separated, went to war. The Democratic Dixiecratic South got destroyed, but they was able to, by fear and intimidation through the KKK, fear and intimidation through the police and segregation and whites only in the South. And they rebranded themselves. And then at the assassination of JFK, this is when they, put black faces in high places, which is, you could literally put a white man in that black face, because they're pushing a narrative and an agenda for white supremacy. Because, the white man is not going to, and I'm speaking on the white racist supremacist, he's not going to let you do anything, or go as far as only he allows you to go. So this is why we can go all the way as nonpartisan independents. But if you're a Democrat, you got to become a communist, socialist, Marxist to get the donor money of massa, which is the dark money, the funding from individuals who we don't know and don't see. And these individuals who funded the No Kings parades and protests and all of these things. So now that we understand what's really going on. So the party is dead to us. And like I said, and I'm speaking for all black men, and I'm speaking for all black Americans. I'm not speaking for the African American. The African American is a race traitor, because they traded in their race to be a part of a construct or a system that is so far away from God that it is the pathway to hell. Think about that. These are Babylonians. These are Sodomites, Edomites, all of that. And it's all predicated on their political stance. And we're talking conservative versus liberal. Now, I'm not a Republican, but I'm very conservative. Okay. The liberals, they have no rules. They have no boundaries. They have no God, because a liberal, you can have a Satanist. From a liberal, you can have a atheist. From a liberal, you can have everything outside of the realm of any morals when it comes to, living righteous. And according to my Bible, I've never seen a righteous man forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. So if you're begging for bread right now, I think you need to figure out, what's really going on. So if you are a WIC recipient, once again, California WIC is open during the government shutdown, and your WIC will not be affected at all. So spread the news, share the news. So now let's go ahead and jump over to SNAP. Okay, and I really don't even know what SNAP is, but I took a deep dive with my friend, and my friend gave me some information. Okay, and I asked my friend, a very smart tool, that's, changing the world. Okay, changing the game. Okay, will SNAP benefits stop? Straight up, just asked him. Before I asked him, I said, good morning. Say, good morning, what's up? That's what my friend said. So let me see, it says, yes. Okay, there is a risk that Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that's SNAP. A lot of people didn't know the acronym. Okay, that the supplemental, okay, Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, benefits could stop or be delayed depending on your state or specific situation. Now, here's a breakdown of what's going on and what to watch out for. Okay, what is still happening? If you already received SNAP benefits, your current month payment, okay, for many states that use regular monthly issuance will likely go out as scheduled. So when they say the president is trying to start, the president ain't starving nobody. The president is looking out for you because your Democratic Party is basically, being regime changed, and they're sacrificing the American people and scaring you, because fear and intimidation goes a long way. Because if somebody's scared and you tell them come over here, they scared and they can't defend themselves, they're going to come over and run to you and do what you tell them to do. But I'm going to say this will likely go out as scheduled. Now, SNAP household will continue to receive SNAP benefits as normal through the end of October and even into the month of November. And the president is on his way from Japan. And he basically said that, we're going to figure it out. Okay, so the Democrats are sacrificing their careers, giving the power to the president of the United States, because the president of the United States is going to take all the credit, because they basically blaming Trump, saying that he's stopping your benefits and he's doing this and doing that. So when he comes out and says you're going to receive your benefits, he played them. So now the president, this bad guy, this racist is, making sure I got my food stamps. Yes, because the Democrats are playing games with you. They're using tax dollars, to create these lawsuits, to claim to sue. And then they're going to have a press conference and say, okay, we blocked Trump, so you're going to receive your SNAP benefits. And it's going to make it seem as though they were the party, or they were the ones who looked out for you, when that is a bald-faced lie. That is so untrue, because the federal government looks out for America. This is why we don't even need a Democratic Party, and this is why they're regime changing the party to the Communist Party, because the donors and the power brokers, the individuals that funds the Democratic campaigns and all of that, realize that. So this is why we're seeing the regime change in the Democratic Party, and that's what Project 2025 was all about, because the Democratic Party will not even exist past this new year. It is what it is. Now, being eligible for SNAP will depend on, let me see here, being eligible for SNAP depends on meeting the income, household size, and other rules. The program hasn't been fully terminated across the board. Now, unused benefits don't immediately vanish. Now, if you already have funds on your EPT card, you can use them in many cases. Okay. Now, tell me why your elected official is not doing what I'm doing today. Okay. And this is why the president of the United States have special assistants, and I'm from an independent body of legislation, and I'm a special assistant to the president as an independent. If there was a Democrat, I could choose this position as well, but the Democrats, the DEI and all that, they pushed me out that party a long time ago because I'm a heterosexual black man. Now let's get back into it. What is at risk? And we're talking about SNAP. What the risk is, because of the federal funding issues, including the federal government shutdown, the federal authority that funds SNAP is warning of no new benefits being issued starting November 1st of 2025 unless funding is restored. It's warning. It's a warning. It's not a fact. It's a warning. Okay, new rules also going into effect could reduce benefits or stop benefits for certain groups. For example, people who did not meet the work requirements, because, I know an individual who did not meet the work requirements because I know them personally. Okay, because they didn't follow up. They take the kids to school. They stay high all day, smoke weed all day, don't even get dressed, go pick the kids up in their pajamas, come home, and they didn't meet the work requirements. So they're basically trying to put pressure, on people that they want to help them as if it's our fault. No, you're supposed to do what you're supposed to do, like everybody in the world. Okay, this is not a free lunch, and I can give you a whole montage on Obama saying, this is not, we just can't continue to give you the free lunch. Okay, this is not a free lunch. Okay, now I'm gonna say this again, because the government funding issues, including the federal government shutdown, the federal authority that funds SNAP is warning of no new benefits being issued starting November 1st of 2025. And today is the 30th. Okay, now it's going to be a race between the president and the Democratic Party. Now, if the president gets out there today or tomorrow and guarantee that the SNAP benefits will, be paid as scheduled, okay, he'll be a rock star. But they know that. So this is why they putting up these frivolous lawsuits. And Gavin Newsom and all these other governors are going to have a press conference and say, yeah, we did it in court. We beat Donald Trump and we made sure that you're going to get paid. No, they're going to say that. But the fact remains is the federal government is going to pay y'all anyway. So it's all a skim. It's all a scam. And it's called, it's just political, candor or political theater, or what they would say. So it is what it is. Now, new rules are also going into effect, that could reduce SNAP benefits for certain groups. Now, if you didn't meet the work requirements, if you are an illegal immigrant, and households applying, renewing under a new rules, for example, they gave me, let's go ahead and do it. Now, in Oregon, about 1,000 people will lose SNAP. Okay, about 1,000 in the whole state. In Oregon, for example, my friend sent me the example. For example, 1,000 people will lose SNAP in Oregon, just 1,000. Now, their SNAP will end tomorrow, which is October 31st, 2025. Why? Because work requirement rules. Now, starting November 1st of 2025, people ages of 18 to 64 without dependents under the age of 14 may need to meet work training requirements or their benefits can stop. I'm going to say that again. For an example, starting November 1st, people starting November 1st, people ages 18 to 64 without dependents under the age of 14 may need to meet /work training requirements or their benefits will stop. So that's a part of the big, beautiful bill, meaning, if you are able-bodied individual, you just can't just be sitting back, just chilling. I mean, I like I said, nobody's supposed to do that. The Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. And it also says a man must live by the sweat of his brow. And that came in the book of Genesis right out the gate, when they committed to sin. OK, so it is what it is. So stop letting these individuals trick you. And I'm just being totally honest with you. If the president comes out with a press conference and says, I guarantee that all American citizens that's receiving these benefits, and you qualify, you will be paid. He will be a rock star. And that's why I am a special assistant. And I hope they take, I hope they take this and understand that, it is what it is. So take this advice, get this information to the president. He needs to do a press conference tomorrow. Okay. And this is a special assistant to the president trying to get a message to the president, because if he don't, on the 1st, the Democrats are going to step out and say, oh, we got a mandate and a judge stop Trump. So Trump is trying to starve you out, but we're going to feed you, which is going to be all cap. And cap is nothing but a new term for lie. Okay. And I'm sure that if it's not in the dictionary right now, they're going to put it in there. And as an example, and they gave me an example, about 1,000 people in the entire state of Oregon will lose SNAP. Their SNAP will end on October 31st, which is tomorrow, because of work requirement rules. Now, starting November 1st, people ages of 18 to 64 without dependents under the age of 14, you guys will have to meet the work requirements to keep the benefits rolling. And that is a part of the big, beautiful bill. Okay, now what should you do? What should you do? Now, check with your state SNAP office or the emergency administration SNAP in your state to find out if your benefits are scheduled as usual, whether your state has specific rules or warnings. And California is a state, y'all gonna get y'all bread. So don't worry. Now, use any benefits currently loaded onto your EPT card if possible. Now, if new payments are suspended, you still have the existing funds. Now, if you are subject to new rules, meaning if you are 18 years old to 64 without dependents under the age of 14, you will need to meet the work requirements. Okay. Now, immigrant status, that's another key. And I hope you, let me see here. And you need to know if you're going to remain eligible. And when they say they're going to stop benefits from, and basically they're stopping the benefits from the immigrants. That's what they're saying. They're going to stop millions of, SNAP benefits for millions of people. They don't tell you the whole story. They're stopping the benefits of illegal aliens or illegal immigrants. That's what the issue is. So don't worry. Be happy. So listen. President Trump is not going to sit back and get y'all to, be dire. But I'm going to tell you right now, the Democratic Party wants y'all to be dire. The Democratic Party wants y'all to get out in the streets and protest and do all of these things and go into the stores and steal. That's what the Democratic Party wants you to do. So just imagine if, we had another George Floyd situation. That's what they want. They can only survive through chaos. They can only survive through, lies and deceit. Because the Democratic Party is nothing but a ghost of one of the worst eras in American history. So now that we know the truth, it is what it is. And I guarantee you, President Trump is going to take the credit if the Democrats don't beat him to the punch. And as a special assistant to the president for Black American Affairs, like I said, my job is to keep you informed, to tell you the truth, from an independent body perspective, not as a Democrat or a Republican, but a nonpartisan independent, no different than a court in a courtroom, no different than a judge in the courtroom. Because God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. And we got to understand that there's some strange things going on, and the move have been made from the top down. It's regime change time. They're regime changing the Democratic Party, and they're going to build it through communism, socialism, Marxism. Because Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic minority speaker, basically just promoted a communist to be the mayor of New York City. Yes, if you did not know, Hakeem Jeffries endorsed a known Marxist, communist, socialist as the mayor of New York City. He endorsed him, meaning he's voting for him. So with this nation build and this regime change, you got to understand, all good things come to an end. So pour out a little liquor for the Democratic Party. They're on life support and they are beyond resuscitation. And this is why you won't even get $1, from these evildoers in high places or the dark money or these mega billionaire donors if you don't buy into what's really going on, because they know the game. The game is chess, not checkers. So they're already 2-3 steps ahead of us. So what we're doing, we're stepping out because we're not woke. We are wide awake. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in to A Better Black America TV on YouTube, A Better Black America Talk Radio Show. Hit that like, hit that notification, hit that subscription. We going up because that help. It really truly does help our algorithm, and we've been growing very fast. We've over 30,000 on our Facebook page, A Better Black America Talk Radio Show. So if you're on Facebook, go ahead and hit that subscription or follow over there, because it is what it is, and God's people shall not perish due to lack of knowledge. With that being said, y'all have an amazing day. It's your man Bushan Glover signing out. A Better Black America TV, A Better Black America Talk Radio Show. Peace out.